He copied my style, so I copied his girlfriend. The hum of the Wacom tablet was the soundtrack to my life. Late nights, early mornings, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the burning desire to create something, mine. That was the core of it really, mine. Something original in a sea of sameness. I was Liam, a freelance graphic designer, and originality was my brand, my identity, my everything. Chloe, my best friend and a wizard with code, understood. She'd see me hunched over my desk, muttering about kerning and color palettes, and she'd just roll her eyes and bring me another cup of coffee. "You're obsessed," she'd say, but with affection. She knew the struggle, the hustle, the constant self-doubt that came with trying to make it on your own. Then there was Ethan. We used to be close, back in college. Two wide-eyed art students dreaming of changing the world with pixels and vectors. But Ethan had always craved the stability, the recognition that I stubbornly resisted. He went corporate, snagging a gig at Harrison Marketing, a big, soulless firm that churned out ad campaigns for everything from toothpaste to tax software. I stayed independent, scraping by on smaller projects, relishing the freedom to do things my way. I even felt a little sorry for him, stuck in a cubicle, trading his creativity for a steady paycheck. Until I saw the campaign. It was for a new line of organic snacks. The website, the packaging, the whole visual identity, it was eerily familiar. The earthy tones, the hand-drawn illustrations, the quirky typography. It was all me. Or at least, it was a blatant imitation. My gut clenched. Coincidence? Maybe. But the details were too specific, too close to my own style. I'd been experimenting with that particular blend of vintage and modern for months, posting snippets of my work on Behance, my online portfolio. Ethan knew my style. He'd always admired it, or so I thought. I called Chloe, my voice tight with suppressed anger. "You gotta see this?" I said, sending her the link. "Holy crap," she replied after a minute. "That's uncanny." "Uncanny? It's a ripoff," I practically yelled into the phone. "He stole my design," Chloe tried to calm me down. "Maybe it's just inspiration, Liam. Artists inspire each other, right? Inspiration doesn't mean copying. It's like he looked at my sketchbook and just Xeroxed it." I tried to let it go, chalk it up to the cutthroat world of advertising, but the feeling of violation lingered, a bitter taste in my mouth. Then, a few weeks later, another client meeting. I was pitching a branding concept to a local coffee shop. I thought I nailed it. The owner loved my portfolio, my ideas, my passion. He said he'd get back to me soon. I waited, and waited, and waited, and waited. Finally, I called him. He was polite but distant. "We decided to go with another firm," he said. They had a really compelling vision. I pressed him, trying to understand what had gone wrong. He hesitated, then said, "Their work was very similar to yours, but more polished, I guess." "The other firm?" "Harrison Marketing." "Ethan." That's when the suspicion turned to certainty. He wasn't just copying my style, he was actively stealing my clients, using my own creativity against me. I needed a drink. Chloe met me at our usual dive bar, the Pixel Pusher. I ranted, I raved, I emptied my glass of cheap beer. Chloe listened patiently, her brow furrowed with concern. "You need to do something, Liam," she said finally. "You can't just let him get away with this. What am I supposed to do? Sue him? I can't afford a lawyer. Besides, it's just a style, not a trademark." "Then fight fire with fire," Chloe said, her eyes gleaming with a mischievous spark. "Beat him at his own game." I shook my head. "I'm not like him, Chloe. I don't stoop to that level." "Okay," she said, backing off. "But don't say I didn't warn you when he lands another one of your clients." I still wasn't convinced. But the next day, I got a call from Mark, a mutual friend from college. He worked as a junior copywriter at Harrison Marketing. He sounded nervous. "Liam, hey man," he said. "Listen, I don't know if I should be telling you this, but..." He hesitated, then spilled the beans. Ethan had been running me down to potential clients, subtly implying that my work was derivative, unprofessional, too out there. He'd been actively sabotaging my career. That was it. The gloves were off. "All right, Chloe," I said when I called her later that day. "Let's fight fire with fire." But I wasn't going to copy his designs. I was going to copy something he valued even more. Olivia, Ethan's girlfriend, a talented photographer with a sharp wit and a captivating smile. I'd met her a few times at art openings, and I'd always been drawn to her. She had this way of seeing the world, of capturing beauty in the mundane, that resonated with me. And, if I was honest with myself, there was definitely a spark there. I knew it was wrong. Messing with someone's relationship was low, even for revenge. But the anger, the feeling of being betrayed, had consumed me. I convinced myself that Ethan deserved it. He'd stolen my work, my clients, my livelihood. Now, I was going to take something from him. I started spending time with Olivia. I complimented her photography genuinely. I collaborated with her on a small project, a series of portraits for a local magazine. We talked for hours about art, about life, about everything and nothing. I listened to her, really listened, in a way that I suspected Ethan never did. I learned about her frustrations, her dreams, her insecurities. She felt stifled by Ethan's controlling nature, his need to always be in charge. She craved authenticity, a genuine connection. I provided that, or at least I pretended to. I subtly highlighted Ethan's flaws, his shallowness, his lack of appreciation for her talent. I never directly criticized him, but I planted seeds of doubt in her mind. Ethan, of course, noticed. He became increasingly jealous and possessive. He'd call her constantly when we were together, demanding to know where she was, who she was with. He started arguments over trivial things, accusing her of flirting with me. His behavior only pushed her closer to me. One night, after a gallery opening, I walked Olivia home. We stood on her doorstep, the city lights twinkling behind us. The air crackled with unspoken tension. "Thank you for tonight, Liam," she said, her voice soft. "I really enjoyed it." "Me too," I said, my heart pounding. We looked at each other for a long moment. Then, she leaned in and kissed me. It was a mistake. I knew it the moment our lips touched, but I didn't pull away. The kiss was electric, passionate, and everything I thought I wanted. But it also felt empty, hollow, like I was just going through the motions, fulfilling a role in my elaborate revenge fantasy. The next few weeks were a blur. Olivia broke up with Ethan. I felt a pang of guilt, seeing the hurt in his eyes, but I quickly suppressed it. He deserved it, I told myself. Olivia and I started dating. We went to museums, concerts, coffee shops. We laughed, we talked, we made love. It felt real, but there was always a nagging doubt in the back of my mind. Was she really into me, or was I just a rebound, a symbol of her rebellion against Ethan? The confrontation came at a party, a launch event for a new craft brewery. The whole design community was there. Ethan was there, looking pale and drawn. He avoided my gaze, but I could feel his resentment burning. I'd been planning this moment for weeks. I'd gathered evidence, compiled a side-by-side comparison of my designs and Ethan's campaigns, highlighting the similarities. It was damning. As Ethan was grabbing a beer, I walked up to him. "Ethan," I said, my voice cold and controlled. "We need to talk." He turned, his eyes narrowed. "Leave me alone, Liam." "No," I said, raising my voice slightly. "Everyone needs to hear this." I pulled out my laptop and opened the presentation. I projected it onto the nearest wall for everyone to see. "This," I said, pointing to my designs, "is my work. Original work that I poured my heart and soul into." I then pointed to Ethan's campaigns. "And this is Ethan's work. Or, rather, a blatant imitation of my work." A hush fell over the crowd. People started whispering, murmuring. Ethan's face flushed crimson. "That's a lie," he shouted. "Those are just coincidences. We're both in the same industry." "Coincidences?" I scoffed. "Look at the details, Ethan. The colors, the typography, the illustrations, it's all the same. You stole my style, you stole my clients, and you tried to ruin my career." I went through each example, meticulously pointing out the similarities, the subtle nuances that Ethan had copied. The evidence was overwhelming. Finally, I turned to Olivia, who was standing nearby, her face pale with shock. "And you, Olivia," I said, "deserve to know the truth about the man you were dating." Ethan lunged at me, his fists clenched. "You son of a bitch!" Security guards intervened, pulling him away. The crowd erupted in chaos. Olivia pushed through the crowd and came to me. Her eyes were filled with a mixture of anger, confusion, and disappointment. "Is this true, Liam?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Did you really do all this just to get back at Ethan?" I looked at her, and the weight of my actions crashed down on me. I'd been so consumed by revenge that I'd forgotten about the people I was hurting. "Yes," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "It's true." She slapped me. Hard. "I can't believe I fell for you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You're just as bad as him." She turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Ethan was fired from Harrison Marketing. His reputation was tarnished. He became a pariah in the design community. I, on the other hand, was seen as a hero. The wronged artist who stood up to the corporate bully. My business boomed. Clients flocked to me, eager to work with the authentic designer. But the victory felt hollow. I'd achieved my revenge, but I'd lost Olivia in the process. And I'd lost something else, something even more important, my integrity. One rainy afternoon, a few weeks later, I found Olivia at her studio. She was packing up her equipment, getting ready for a shoot. "Olivia," I said, my voice hesitant, "can we talk?" She looked at me, her expression guarded. "I don't know, Liam. What's there to talk about?" "I wanted to apologize," I said, "for everything, for using you, for lying to you, for hurting you." She sighed. "I appreciate the apology, Liam, but it doesn't change anything. You used me, and that's something I can't forgive." "I know," I said. "I understand." "I really liked you, Liam," she said, her voice cracking. "I thought we had something special, but it was all built on a lie." "It wasn't all a lie," I said desperately. "I did care about you, Olivia. I still do." She shook her head. "I don't know what to believe anymore." "Can we start over?" I asked. "Can we try to build something real, something based on honesty?" She looked at me for a long time, her eyes filled with sadness and doubt. "I don't know, Liam," she said finally. "I need time. I need to figure out what I want." She picked up her camera bag and walked out of the studio, leaving me standing alone in the rain. I never saw Olivia again. She moved to another city, started a new life. I heard she was doing well, thriving as a photographer. I was happy for her. Ethan, on the other hand, faded into obscurity. I heard he was working as a freelance designer, struggling to make ends meet. I didn't feel any satisfaction. I achieved my revenge. I exposed Ethan's plagiarism, I won over his girlfriend, and I salvaged my career. But the victory was Pyrrhic. I'd hurt people I cared about, I damaged my own integrity, and I'd become the kind of person I never wanted to be. Sometimes, late at night, when the hum of the Wacom tablet fills my studio, I wonder if it was all worth it. I wonder if the price of revenge was too high. I wonder if I should have just let it go. But then I remember the feeling of violation, the anger, the sense of being robbed of my creativity. And I tell myself that I did what I had to do. But the doubt lingers, a constant reminder of the choices I made and the person I became in the process. The originality I craved, the authenticity I preached, had been tarnished by the very act of seeking retribution. I had copied Ethan, in a way, becoming as manipulative and self-serving as the man I despised. And in the end, the only thing I truly copied was his capacity for destruction.